Night in Edo. Not just a city, not just a place people live, but a system, a living mechanism, a structure so complete that it no longer feels designed, it feels inevitable, as if it could not have been any other way. For over 200 years, it has existed like this, unbroken, unquestioned, unchallenged. Time here does not rush. It settles. It repeats. It reinforces itself. Generation after generation, not building something new, but continuing something old. Wooden streets, worn smooth by routine. Paper walls, thin enough to hear life, but strong enough to keep it contained. Every home connected. Every life intertwined. Not by choice, but by design. There is comfort in this, predictability, clarity, a world where uncertainty has been minimized, where chaos has been engineered out. Every movement is known, not guessed, not assumed, known. Every gesture has a place, every word has a weight, every silence has a purpose, and every role is assigned. Before birth, before thought, before identity can even form. Farmers, merchants, artisans, each one essential, each one limited, and above them all, the samurai. Not simply warriors, not merely protectors, but embodiments, living representations of something larger than themselves, of order, of discipline, of control. They do not just enforce the system, they justify it. Their presence answers a question no one is allowed to ask. Why does this world exist like this? Because they stand, because they endure, because they believe. A world that does not question itself is a world that appears
Fire!
stable.
It's spreading!
But stability is not the same as stability. For generations, this balance has held, not because it is fair, not because it is right, but because it is accepted. And acceptance is the most invisible force of all. It does not impose, it absorbs. It does not demand obedience, it removes the need to resist. And over time, it reshapes reality itself. Because when something is accepted long enough, it disappears. Not physically, but mentally. It stops being a system. It becomes the way things are. And when something becomes the way things are, it begins to feel permanent, untouchable, unbreakable, eternal. But history does not recognize eternity, only duration. And duration always ends. Everything that feels eternal is already fragile. Because fragility does not mean weakness, it means dependence. Dependence on conditions, on continuity, on the absence of disruption. And disruption is always closer than it seems. It does not need to be powerful, only mistimed, only unnoticed. Tonight, that pattern returns, not loudly, not violently, but quietly, almost respectfully. An ember drifts through the air, carried by nothing more than chance, or perhaps by inevitability. It glows faintly, barely alive, easy to miss, easy to ignore. It does not think, it does not plan, it does not understand. And yet, it carries consequence, because it will decide everything. The fire begins like all endings do, small enough to dismiss, a flicker where there should be none, a glow that does not belong, something slightly wrong, but not long enough. Someone sees it for a moment, long enough to notice, but not long enough to act, because the human mind resists urgency. Acknowledging danger creates responsibility, and responsibility demands action, and action is irreversible. But fire does not negotiate. It does not wait for certainty. It does not require permission. It only means presence. And once it exists, it continues. At first, it moves slowly, almost carefully, testing, exploring, like it is learning the space. But what it finds is perfection. Because Ado is built from wood.
I'm here! Grab on!
Who are you? Let go!
Aged,
No time! We have to move!
All right, I'm
not
coming.
isolated structures, but a network, a system.
The roofs!
And
Fire is
systems
spreading!
amplify
My lord, it moves so fast!
everything within
To
it.
the well! We must stop
The
it!
fire does
High
not
metal!
spread randomly. It follows design. From beam to beam, from wall to wall, from roof to roof. The very thing that created stability becomes vulnerability. Because wood remembers fire, not consciously, but structurally. It is what it was always capable of becoming. And then the wind moves, invisible, uncontrollable, unconcerned. It does not create the fire, but it defines it. This is the turning point, the moment where scale changes, where possibility becomes inevitability. Flames rise, they stretch, they reach beyond what they were meant to touch. Across streets, across homes, across assumptions. Distances collapse, separation disappears, time compresses, seconds lose meaning, and suddenly, control
Face it!
is gone. Not gradually,
Your challenge is accepted!
completely.
No escape!
Begin
Back!
to move, at first with intention, calm, organized, structured, because structure is what they know, but structure requires time, and time is gone. Urgency replaces order, voices rise, steps quicken, decisions shorten, and then desperation, because something deeper is breaking. Not just homes, not just streets, but expectation. The quiet assumption that tomorrow is today. But 1868 is not repetition. It is rupture. A break in continuity. A shift already in motion long before the fire. The fire is not the beginning. It is the exposure. Now, the fire is no longer an event. It is an environment. It surrounds. It consumes. It defines reality itself. Entire streets vanish in moments. Structures collapse, not because they are weak, but because they were never meant for this. Roofs fall. Walls disappear. Paths cease to exist. Direction becomes meaningless. There is no safe, only less immediate. People run, but movement is no longer strategy. It is instinct. Every path leads to it. Every breath demands risk. Every second demands choice. Stay and fade. Move
What's happening?
and gamble. And in that chaos,
Oh, yeah,
truth
that!
emerges. Not philosophical, not abstract, but physical, immediate, undeniable. Not everyone survives. Not everyone escapes. Not everyone even understands. Because collapse does not distribute itself evenly. It is not fair. It is not logical. It simply is. A lifetime can end in a moment, or a moment can stretch into something endless. A child moves through smoke, not guided, but pushed, by absence, by loss, by the removal of all other options. And nearby, a samurai stands still, not moving, not because nothing has changed, but because everything is. Not just around him, but within. Because his world was never just physical, it was conceptual, a framework, a belief, a code. And that code depends on stability, on continuity, on the absence of meaning. And meaning is dissolving. But he does not move, because for him, to move is to become something else. And becoming something else is a greater loss than death. So he
get back!
remains, not
Oh
untouched,
God, it's all
but
dying!
unbroken, for now. And then, impact. A rupture in the moment. Debris falls. Fire meets gravity. Violence becomes direction. Paths divide. Fates separate.
He stands, but standing no longer means certainty. Before, it meant order. Now, it means nothing. The ground is real. The ash is real. The silence is real. But everything they once held together is gone. For the first time, there is no structure to return to, only aftermath, only choice. And choice was never meant to be his. Around him, people begin to move again, slowly, carefully, like the world might still break if they move too fast. They don't search for what was lost, they already know. They search for what remains.
Sling down! Move!
When it touches the ground.
Hey, back! Sit down! Push through! No! Clear ahead! Keep pushing!
No longer exists. A child watches, quiet but aware. Something has changed, even if they cannot know it. The samurai watches them, not as roles, not as a system, but as people, separate, uncertain, free. And that is unfamiliar. In the distance, a sound, faint, different, not destruction, something else, change, approaching. He looks at his hands, still steady, still trained, but for what? What is discipline without order? What is identity without the world that defined it? For a moment, he considers moving, not out of duty, but by choice. And that alone feels dangerous. Behind him, the city breathes again, not as it was, but as something new, unclear, unformed, unstoppable. He takes a step, small, deliberate, not toward anything, but away from what was. And in that step, everything changes. Because the end of a world is not the fire, it is the moment after, when someone who was never meant to change does.